where has he gone? I didn't realise quite how long this safety car train still is as we wait for... There he goes, now across the line. So Dan Bruce goes across the line. The gap first to second, 6.79 second. Alex Day is in the pits. He's now losing a lap, and that will enable the Circuit Pro car 385 to retake its third place and give an opportunity for the screen to tell me that it's not Tim Hartland but that it's Patrick Watts. That's a speculation on my part, but on the grounds that Tim Hartland will be going over his 3-hour driving limit if he is still behind the wheel of that car, then it is time for another driver to have a go. And meanwhile, the Tolbar racing car has had its driver change properly registered by the control system, because that one tells us that it is Paul Phipps who's taken over the car, and he is shown in third, but surely when the Circuit Pro car comes round it will go through into third place, because it is also on 208 laps. So Circuit Pro is in third, despite the crit screen telling me otherwise. That will change itself when it comes through at the end of this lap. In fifth place is the simple phrase Davidson, and that is the orange motorsport car number 449, Graham Davidson at the wheel, and then behind him in sixth place is Adam Preble in the Silver Lake racing car. So those cars in fifth and sixth separated by 1.5 seconds, and then in seventh place is the Eastgate Automotive car, now back in the hands of Darren Drinkwater, and surely about to possibly, when I say surely, possibly to take a couple of places, because up ahead of him, Adam Predel, maybe no slouch, but I think David Drinkwater is probably going to have the legs of him, and Graham Davidson in the orange motorsport car, again a driver who is no slouch, but it's going to be a good battle actually. Fifth place, fifth, sixth and seventh, Graham Davidson, Adam Preble and David Drinkwater, the three of them separated by only just over 2 seconds. The rest of the field making their way through, getting things underway. So 318 then out in seventh place then, with David Drinkwater at the wheel. Like Red Arrow's formation flying here from the Citroen C1s as they came into Woodcote in Diamond 9 formation. Car number 308, that's a car that's been on its roof at some point. That now making its way into the pit lane. Confused by the angle there, but coming into the pit lane for what is going to have to be a fairly substantial rebuild for that car. 308, you remember, was the car that I'm trying to remember myself what point it went onto its roof, but it's now found its way into the pit lane, and 308, the Emax Motorsport car, which is in 70-somethingth place, 79th place overall. It was, yes, I think it was Greg Owens at the wheel when it had its incident earlier on, and a yellow flag being waved again at Abbey. And see why that might Abbey, because there's nothing at Abbey itself. Possibly something a bit further around the circuit which is causing the yellow flags to be displayed. So let's have a quick look at the exit of Abbey. No, that looks alright. So yellow flags just being dried out possibly. It's got the C1 Club car in the pit garage there, car number 303. Jason Barron, Rainer Becker, Jürgen Rudolph, Matt Pryor, Dan Trent, the drivers of that one. As the leading cars come through once again. And the gap first to second has again extended itself. And this is once again evidence of the Old Hat Motorsports car putting in some good laps when it has to. Daniel Bruce, as I say, the pressure may be on, but opening up the gap between himself and the car behind at a fair rate of knots at the moment. That's up to 11 seconds now. Darren Beckley falling away in the Citroen car, and we see another shot of the safety car coming out, and we have gone back then to safety car situation with another incident needing to be resolved. And where are we this time? Better visibility with the screens, but still hard to see whereabouts there might be a problem which warrants us to have the safety car. Looking at Kopp's, Kopp seems alright. Beckett's is a possibility for something, because most of our screens cover the rest of the circuit. So Beckett's is looking pretty clear as well. We do have a marshal walking across the gravel bed at Abbey, but no real suggestion that he's looking to get a car out of any gravel bed. So a bit of a mystery, that particular safety car, which just to recap is now, I do believe that makes 14 that we've had in the race thus far. Just count down them. Yes, it is 14 safety cars, and getting on towards 4 hours. Depends how long this one will be, but not far off the 4 hour in total that will have been behind the safety car. And again, it gives the opportunity for pit callers. Safety car coming up past the international pits at the moment. Something at Village that is where the cars are just going past at the moment. Ah, yes, there is something off between Farm and Village on the right hand side of the circuit. There's a car off there, I do believe, being given a tow back to a place of safety. and I do believe it might be the area car again, which has come to grief, and that is, let's say, between farm and village. The car now being towed back towards village in order to take it behind the barriers, and that has now been done. So it was number 384. Yeah, so it was the car that was one of the very early cars to end up on its side, causing problems again. The Area Motorsport car, which Rob Baker was in when it had its problem earlier on, and now I think it was in Rob Baker's hands recently, but no, it's since changed to Carl Swift, and is down in 81st place. So that's the reason for that safety car. And across the line, the Citroen comes once again leading the way. Citroen pace car comes once again leading the way, and the screen is still insisting on Tim Hartland being behind the wheel of number 385, and we'll be able to get to the bottom of that reasonably soon, because not long hence we'll have Duncan Douglas and Dave Goddard returning to take up their positions down in the pit lane, and so we'll be able to then check some of these little factoids to make sure that what I'm trying to work out from working things out up here is something close to what might be happening on the circuit out there. So Dan Bruce goes through in the lead, and he is still able to protect that margin in the lead, not able to extend it, but a few cars, having got a bit of a margin, he's managed to put a few cars between himself and the Citroen racing car of Darren Beckley, and that has enabled him to open up the margin under the safety car. But of course, once the safety car goes away, the racing speeds resume and the gap comes down again. Circuit Pro is still there in third place, car number 385. And then behind at 385 is Paul Phipps at the wheel of the 333 Toll Bar Racing car. There goes the Toll Bar car now. So that's going to put itself, yes, going to keep itself in fourth place, but it is now not on the lead lap. So Toll Bar Racing, Paul Phipps, have slipped off the lead lap. They took a pit stop a little bit earlier in order to get Alex Day switched over to Paul Phipps. And having done that, they've made the switch, but lost a little bit of ground. So Paul Phipps has only been out there for 3 laps, whereas Daniel Bruce has been out for 39, and Darren Beckley is making fuel out there, I reckon, because he's been out for a very, very long time, and actually he's going to have to look out that he doesn't, no, he's not quite at his 3-hour limit, but he's not far off his 3-hour limit. So Darren Beckley is going to be the next one in the Citroen racing car. 3 hours, not too far off what he's going to be able to do at the wheel of the car. As the safety car makes its way around once again, and we'll try and work out when its lights go out. Just coming through club corner at the moment, the safety car, so will be shortly making its way up through, not through, past the international pits. International pits on the right hand side, empty grandstands on the left, and actually it's gone further around than I thought it was. That's the queue of cars still tagging back, but the safety car lights are now off, so it will be pulling off and we'll be going racing once again. And let's hope this one lasts a bit longer, and now with daylight we'll be able to have some good racing. The Daniel Bruce car then, Darren Beckley not so very far behind, and both of them heading towards the end of their respective driving stints, but Darren Beckley will have to be in first. So Darren then at the wheel of the 376 car, and he's still not come through, waiting for him to do so, so he's lost quite a bit of ground. There he is now, he is in the pit lane, so Darren Beckley then, I wouldn't say he was slow in the pit lane, but he isn't as quick getting to the point where you have to slow down. Obviously he doesn't want to get pinged for pit lane speeding, but you only need to slow down to the required pit lane speed limit, which I've just seen, having managed to work out where the speed limit actually starts, rather than being the 60 kilometers per hour that I had suggested. It was actually only 40 kilometers an hour is the speed limit in the pit lane for the Citroens. And anyway, Darren makes his way in, but it was quite a slow in lap for him, and so he won't have gained any time with that. 4 minutes 46, and that should be anyway for Darren to be able to hand the car over to, it'd be Chris Nyland's time, won't it, turn behind the wheel, because Chris's that team is only a team of 3 drivers, so it's a bit more easy to predict. And if you've got 3 drivers, then giving a good rotation is the best way to give each driver maximum benefit of rest, whilst also giving them turns behind the wheel. At last Patrick Watts has appeared on the screen. Glad about that, because it was what I thought, so I'm glad we got that one right, because as I say, it would have been far too long for Tim to still be driving that car. So that's the 3rd place car now in the hands of Patrick Watts then. It has been in the hands of Patrick Watts for 10 laps or so, but now recognising that that is the case, he is on the lead lap, but is quite a long way back on the lead lap, about 2¾ of a lap down on the lead lap. And with Darren Beckley now in the pits, having a driver change, then that's going to play into the hands a little bit of Daniel Bruce, but Dan himself is going to, well, no, maybe he's got half an hour, so Daniel Bruce has got a little bit longer to drive if he wants, and so an opportunity, if we can get some green flag running again, for the opportunity for Dan Bruce and the MSAR Old Hat team just to put a few cars between themselves and the rest of the opposition. The safety car may squash the seconds away, but it doesn't squash the number of cars away that you're going to just physically be able to get from one to the next. So the car has the fuel going into it at the moment. This is the Citroen Racing entered car. currently in the pits but in second place. Patrick Watts will be closing the gap, and by the time Patrick comes through next time around, in fact he already has gone through, so Patrick Watts into the lead of the, into second place, catch my breath, into second place. Also in the pits at the moment is number 345, this being the Emax Motorsport car, which is another car that's relatively well up the field, currently in the hands of either Jake or James Little. It just tells me J on that screen. James Little it is at the wheel of the Emax Motorsport car. That car also receiving service in the pits at the moment, and is in 12th place. One of those cars that's kind of worked their way up the list by virtue of staying out of trouble. And well, no, there is quite a lot of damage around the rear of that car when you look a little bit more closely, but it's certainly still going, and any car that features on the first screen of 30 at this stage in the race is doing a pretty good job, even if it means that you're up to 10 laps behind the race leaders. The 30th place car, slight exaggeration, the 30th place car is 8 laps behind the race leader. So we'll just have a short break because I just want to have a quick word with somebody who just popped into the box. So, yeah, the reason for the break was just to say good morning to the rather fragrant-smelling Dave Goddard, who may not have got much sleep, but smells better than I do probably at this time in the morning. I think he's cleaned his teeth was the answer. That always helps wake you up. As you say, it's been a bit of an all-action night. It's been some horrible weather, Dave, but we've still got a great motor race going on. But now it's got light, I've realised quite how shabby some of these poor little Citroens are. Some of these drivers haven't been kind to their cars, really. I mean, they haven't.
Well, very good morning to you, Paul, and good morning from me, ladies and gents, both on Silverstone Radio and on our live stream coverage. You just had a spin for the Rusty's racing car there, I noticed at Brookland, which is now coming into the pits. But yes, been on the breath mints this morning to try and freshen myself up a little bit after breakfast. So excellent. Do avail yourself of the facilities over in the paddock if you've not been for breakfast just yet. Keeping all our teams running. But yeah, the cars you can see now that daylight has returned to these rather damp Silverstone circuits always look a little bit battered by this stage of the race. They drive them hard, these little Citroens, as you can see.
Yeah, so I'm used to seeing day break and seeing what kind of damage has been done to cars, but I'm not quite used to seeing quite as many. I mean, we must have had, and I'm not exaggerating, certainly 6 cars either on their roof or on their sides, 2 simultaneously in entirely unrelated incidents, just after it got a little bit light, and the drivers generally manage to oink themselves out of them. The marshals heave to, get them back on the 4 wheels. They either get back by being pulled back or put onto a flatbed. They then get sent back to the paddock, and then rather than just let them rest, they just mend them and send them out again to do some more laps. So
that's endurance racing.
As I say, there is no mercy for these poor little Citroens. I started off at the beginning of the weekend thinking what magnificent looking cars they are, but by the end it'll be very interesting just to walk around the pits and the paddock afterwards just to see how shabby they all are, especially bearing in mind that we're only just over halfway through the race. We got to the half distance point in the race of 12 hours, interestingly, before we got to 200 laps completed. So I think we're going to be struggling to reach 400 overall. Although the forecast is good for better weather, or at least drier weather for the rest of today. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that and see if it actually comes to pass or not. But anyway, Daniel Bruce it is who leads in the old hat car. He's got about a lap of an advantage over Patrick Watts, who has been in the Circuit Pro car for around about 10 or 15 laps. Daniel Bruce, on the other hand, is coming towards the end of his stint, so the lead will change when Daniel Bruce comes in for his pit stop, and that will enable Patrick Watts most likely to take the lead of this race. Not the first time that car will have led. It led through the night as well for a few laps.
I must ask, because I missed this, what happened to Team C'est La Vie? Because they were leading when I went off air a few hours ago. I see it there running with virtually no windows in it.
Yes, well, in an almost copycat picture to what happened to the Area Motorsport earlier on when it was leading and ended up on its side at Copse Corner, C'est La Vie ended up not on its side, but pointing backwards at Copse Corner, pretty much the same place on the outside, and lost a good deal of time while that car was hoiked out of the gravel. So that was the problem there. I'm trying to think what time it was. It wasn't that long after you disappeared, so I'll say it was something like 2 o'clock in the morning. So C'est La Vie still going, but having had a long delay with an accident at Copse Corner.
Okay, so that's that mystery solved. But several cars running with no windscreen. 391, the CDMC car there with no front or rear screens. Once your windscreen's gone, you remove the rear screen as well, because otherwise the slipstream will blow the rear windscreen out all over the tarmac.
Yes, which you don't really want. And obviously the windscreen coming under probably most pressure if the car is going to go up on its roof. And as I say, there was this bizarre situation where just as it got light enough to see, two different cars, one was at Abbey and the other one's at Copse, both just spun and kind of as the gravel bed did its job and then momentum took over, the high centre of gravity just tipped the car over, and very, very gently. I mean, it wasn't by any means a violent roll, but just very, very gentle, going up onto the onto one, in one case the side, in another case going right over onto the roof.
The Clapham North car doing a bit of manoeuvring there. A couple of cars over the curbs at Maggots and Beckett's. That's a little string of cars you can see on the live stream picture from Alpha Live coming down towards Abbey. 10.5 hours of the race still to go. Side by side there, the 325 and the 449. Orange Motorsports on the back of the 325 ITC1.
And could you believe that car's been on its roof? Honestly,
there's been quite a few that have been on their roofs during this race.
I'm not exaggerating. If it's not 6, it's 8. It's certainly of that order. Yes, it was Stephen Nuttall who was in the ITC car when that car went up. He got out of it and helped put it back onto its wheels. It was then put onto the back of a flatbed trailer, and away it went. Just going through there is another car that we've been keeping our eye on, the Citroen Racing Car 376. That's been there or thereabouts, leading for various portions of the race. And for their drivers, of course, it is a proper endurance race because they're doing it with just the 3 of them, which makes picking out the driving sequence a little bit easier because you cycle through a 3-driver team much more straightforward fashion than you do with 4, 5 or even 6 drivers. But that car, I won't say it's been running like clockwork because I don't think anybody has, but it certainly had a relatively trouble-free run. Darren Beckley, the most recent driver to have been in it, and he's passed it over to Chris Nyland. Chris Nyland hasn't been in it for that long. How long has Chris been at the wheel of the 376? Just a couple of laps, in fact. This is his 3rd flying lap. So he'll be in for a good long stint now. And as I say, with the driver rotation, that car should now start popping back up towards the sharp end of the grid when Daniel Bruce makes his scheduled pit stop, probably in a couple of laps.
I caught a glimpse of a car off there, but didn't see who it was on the live stream pictures. Yeah, there it is. It's at Club. It's car number 464. That has come to grief, and the 417 car running very slowly, I notice, as well. So car 464 is on the outside of Club Corner by the look of it. That is... who have we got at the wheel of 464 at the moment?
It's a fairly scary looking livery on that car.
464 Racing is the name.
Oh yes,
yes. Liveried almost like, what is that supposed to be, a dinosaur or something?
Yeah, I think it's one of those green slimy things that probably has a name that we should know about, but our children...
Ben Amos is the driver. That car's stuck at Club Corner, the Land Rover recovery vehicle coming in to tow it away.
I'm not quite sure. It's got all its wheels on it. The front right looks a bit blacker than it would have had its wheel on it, but it might just be that the steel wheel has... no, Ben Amos is coming round saying, I should have something at the front right that I haven't got.
Well, it doesn't look down on the right foot.
Yes.
So maybe the suspension's broken.
Yes. Not sure, but I think they're going to have to lift it at the front and then see it on its way.
You saw the 417 car. Yes, here it comes into the pits now, struggling. That's TCS Motorsport. Have a look who's at the wheel of that one at the moment on our handy guide on the laptop. That's Adrian Hamilton at the wheel of that car, currently running in 60th place.
Morning from the pits.
Good morning, Duncan.
I've made it back. I feel rested. I'll have a working breakfast.
Right, well, I will hang around in the background whilst you two discuss your...
I've just spotted the problem. Sorry to interrupt with 417. It's got a wheel coming loose.
Yes, quite. And what I'll do is, as I say, I'll sit quietly in the background and munch on some breakfast, which I've got in my little cool box. And then, as you ask various questions, what happened to, I'll see if I can shed any light, shall I?
No, we've got a safety car out for the recovery of the 464 car at the moment, so the safety car has come out.
And that is for the 15th time now. We've been counting the safety cars through the night. As you said, it's been fairly horrible in terms of weather. You've been more like being kept awake by the rain pounding on the roof of the car than
yes, because I was trying to sleep in my car inside the commentary box overnight, and I wasn't kept awake by the C1s.
Nor were you kept awake by me shouting and bawling up here.
No, because I didn't have my car radio.
Nor were you kept awake by the sound of the squealing tyres. But yeah, such was the weather during the night. It certainly was fairly severe at times, but at other times it kind of never really dried out. But it certainly, there were times when it stopped raining for periods of about half an hour. But that was really just a prelude to the next rainstorm. So anyway, yes, safety cars have been a regular feature of the night, and that's what's helped in some ways, in a lot of ways, keep the battle so close that we still have so many cars close together for the leading positions.
In come exit 13. That's John Winter's team, named after his sign and graphics company, and they're called Exit 13 because they are based just next to Exit 13 of the M1.
No, you see, I thought it was because they have to get off at junction 13 of the M40 when they come to Silverstone, and that was the only way they could remember which junction they were supposed to be
It's based in Milton Keynes, next to junction 13 of the M1.
Oh, okay.
Hence the team name there. John Winter, who's raced a variety of machinery, including remote control cars over the years, now runs the Hyundai Coupe Cup. He's got some Coupe Cup drivers in his car for this race. They've just come in. Alistair Dendy is currently at the wheel of the number 395. They're running in 52nd place when they came in blue and white flame design. What do you expect, being run by a graphics company, and have a quite extravagant livery. So we're under the safety car once again here at the Distrigo Parts Distribution C1 24 Hours of Silverstone. Safety car just heading past the international pits. It's picked up one of the cars with no windscreen, of which there are quite a few, after various misdemeanours and incidents overnight.
I think there's a very smoky car gone out onto track. There was a lot of smoke right at the top end of the pit lane.
Yes, I can see it.
And that's now disappeared as a car has left the pit lane. So there's someone out there, very smoky indeed.
Let's have a look on the cameras then, see if we can pick that car up as it goes through towards Maggots and Beckett's. Can't see any clouds of smoke heading onto the hangar straight. It should be up there if it makes it that far fairly shortly.
We've got car 467 coming back into the pit lane under its own steam from the marshalling area. So that car's obviously been off around the circuit somewhere. Car 467.
467, that is the Cat's driver training car. Colin Hode, ex-Evo magazine writer, in among their squad. Have a look who's in that car at the moment, car 467. Yes, it is Colin Hode driving at the moment. They're currently running in 81st place. Can't see any clouds of smoke out on circuit at the moment. So whatever car that was, it's either not got very far, or it's whatever the smoke was has cleared itself. Ah, there's another reason for the safety car. Car 312 has gone off on the exit of Copse. And we've got a spinner as well at Club. Who is that facing the wrong way? One of the Emax Motorsport cars, number 355, I think. 312, the 50 Shades of Yellow car, has had an off at Copse on the pit lane exit. That looks like that might be the car that went up in smoke. Whether that's mechanical or whether some damage has caused up some collapsed suspension or something, we'll wait and see. So a couple of cars coming to grief around the circuit shortly after the 7 AM mark. There's C'est La Vie, missing most of its complement of windows. .337 Burton Power. We've not seen much from them so far. Andy Burton and his squad, normally Ford specialists. In comes the not trade price cars, Clapham North MOT car. The police car, liveried car almost, number 474 into the pits. Oh yes, that 3-1, yes, Duncan.
Martin Short into the pits, 488. Actually, it was Martin at the wheel as well of the car, so they're just refuelling, so that's Martin's stint over.
Looking at the front of the 312 car, just being loaded onto the flatbed, that I don't think was leaving the pits in the condition it's in. That's hit something pretty hard, that 312, so quite a bit of damage to particularly the left front. That's missing a headlight, and quite a bit of bodywork and front suspension damage as well, so I'm not sure what the 312, the Advantech 50 Shades of Yellow car, has hit there.
We had one car during the night that had a similar incident, and I just wonder if that's a copycat one of that, which is you lose it as you go through Copse Corner, get it a little bit wide on the curb, and then suddenly the car grips as it turns right. You're trying to correct it, but it ends up going straight on into the barrier on the right-hand side, just as the pit exit exits onto the circuit. You end up crossing the pit exit road, and I just wonder whether that's what's happened to that car, and the cloud of smoke was actually the car hitting the barrier that is what Duncan saw. It wasn't a car exiting the pits, it was a car having a crash at the pit exit.
Quite possibly.
That's just putting two and two together, and when we had that incident before, as I say, we then had a slightly longer delay because there was a bit of Armco that needed replacing as well. So that's me speculating as to what might have happened, but certainly explains the amount of damage on the front of that car, Dave, because you're absolutely right. There's more damage than can be done just by blowing your engine up. That's a proper impact damage car.
Yes, that's going to take quite a lot of repair work there on the 312, unfortunately. We have 3 cars that are currently off and not running, according to... No, 4 cars not running, according to the timing screen. Unfortunately, both of the Atomic Racing cars are stranded during the night. One of the Amigo Motorsport cars, number 380, and 399, which is the Cockhill family, the HE Racing car that was looking very bashed about from the early stages of this race. That's off track at the moment as well. Amigo Motorsport's other car is many laps behind, as is Midway Motorsport and Manpower Motorsport, so they've had delays early on. The Stand Up to Cancer car is in the pit lane. We can just see the QR code on that car, which you can scan with your phone in order to make a donation to the Stand Up to Cancer campaign. So while this safety car's out, let's take a rundown of the top 10 in this race. First place is MSAR Old Hat Motorsports, number 321, with Tony Hutchings currently at the wheel. Second place, number 385 Circuit Pro, driven by Patrick Watts. Third is Tollbar Racing, number 303, with Paul Phipps at the wheel. Fourth place, Citroen Racing, 376. They've looked potent throughout this race. Chris Nyland doing the driving at the moment. Fifth place is shown as number 449. That's just come into the pits, though. Graham Davidson driving for the Orange Motorsport team. In fact, that car just going back out, so we'll wait and see where that slots back in. Sixth is Eastgate Automotive. David Drinkwater again behind the wheel for them. Seventh, we've got the 480 car, Team Merlin International, with Alex Hughes on board. It's Nick Halstead who's taken over, incidentally, in the Orange Motorsport car. Eighth is number 398, which is one of the Prebbles at the wheel. Gary Preble in the Redneck Racing car. Well, it's either Gary or Adam Preble. There's 2 Prebles in that team. It's not showing which one at the moment. Ninth place, number 374, Mac Attack Racing. Simon Walker-Hansel driving for them. Remember all the problems they had at the start of the race? And Roll Centre in 10th, number 488, with Martin Short, their team boss, on board. Lights are out atop the safety car, so we will be going back to green flag racing this time. One car going quite slowly at the back. That's the Emax car that spun a few moments ago. So the Citroen C5 crossover heads into pit lane. And away we go once again. One or two of the cars, good to see, we're still with their neon lights on. It's the number 308 car that's first in the Crocodile this time that will lead the way. Another of the Emax cars. As we get back to green flag racing here at Silverstone, 218 laps completed so far. The 312 car has only been given a 3-lap penalty for being assisted back to the pits. That's in addition to the many more laps they're going to lose while rebuilding that car and seeing if they can get it back out there. In comes the number 367. That's one of the Prep Tech cars coming in, number 367 there. They've got 3 entries in this race. Their leading car at the moment is in 21st place, driven by Ali Topley, the ex-Oval man, in number 469. He's done MR2s as well, competing with the MR2 Championship this season, and he's also raced Citroens and endurance races in the past. 2 CVs, namely. Into the hangar straight comes the lead part of the pack. It looks like Citroen Racing are up at the front of that now. Magnificent sight as they head down the hangar straight. 1 or 2 more cars heading for the pit area. C1 USA, which has spent most of the race without a front or rear screen, comes in, along with the 445 car, another of the orange and black Emax cars. We've had a change for the lead during that safety car period. Tony Hutchings down to 3rd in the MSAR Old Hat Motorsport car. Didn't see him come into the pits.
Yes, but he did.
I missed that.
So somehow
it is still early.
Yes, that's all right. It's only because I have another system here that gives me a record of everything that's happened.
Yes.
That gives me that pit stop. It had to be a pit stop because don't rely on the driver names on that screen, by the way. But it was Daniel Bruce bringing the car into the pits at the end of his 3-hour driving time limit, and I was concerned that he was about to go over it. He was not about to go over it, but it was a good time to bring the car in during that safety car period. So Daniel Bruce into the pits to bring the old hat car in and to hand it over to a new driver.
That's Tony Hutchings, the man who's taken over. He must have taken over just after I took over on comms. Circuit Pro is now in the lead. The plain white number 385 car with Patrick Watts on board.
Yes, and that one, there seems to be a bit of a glitch on the system, Dave. This is on the main system rather than my kind of a bit amateurish system. But sometimes when a car comes out of the pits, whilst there is a safety car out, sometimes the driver change takes quite a long time to happen, and that was one that was the case with Patrick Watts. But just a word to the wise, something to keep an eye on as the race progresses, except hopefully, having said that, won't have any more safety car periods, so it's an issue that won't rise its head.
Somebody looking slow. We've got a car in the gravel. The orange motorsport car has gone into the gravel at Copse. Number 449. That was running in 7th place. Nick Halstead has just taken over. Now, is that going to bring out another safety car period? Because that's quite clear the edge of the circuit, that car. Are the marshals going to be able to push it back out?
It's actually very early in his stint. It was his first flying lap,
yes.
So first time he arrived at Copse at full speed along the start-finish straight. I have to say, most of the time that we've had cars off at Copse, they've been dealt with local yellows. Even through the night, we had a couple that were dealt with local yellows at Copse Corner. They seem to be a little bit more confident about working on the cars, I think, at Copse Corner. Well, I'll let you see what happens, but just giving you the benefit of what's been happening. Most of the time when incidents have been at Copse, they've been able to deal them locally. There's a little digger that comes out and just pulls them away into the hole in the fence just by Copse Corner. They're not going to be able to push it through the gravel, that's for sure. Not even British marshals can push a Citroen C1 through the gravel. They've given it a go, but they're not. It's not for moving, that one.
I think one of the stricken cars earlier on, car 464, has come back sort of half under its own steam into the pit lane. It's got some quite heavy damage to the front right of the car, and it was sort of dragging its broken wheel along, unfortunately. But I'll go and assess the damage proper and see whether that car will be back out. So that was car 464.
We haven't got a safety car at the moment, so that car's still there at Copse. Car 481, which is the Flying Haggis, has been given a stop-go penalty for overtaking under the safety car. And we've got a slow car coming through. Now, where is that? It's one of the Prep Tech cars running slow there. I think that's might be up at Beckett's. Keep an eye on that. Leaving the pits, the number 319 car, that's Scuderia Sundial. It's Paul Rodison's team. Was Paul on board that car? We'll wait and see who's taken over, if any. And we've got a spin for the number 320 car. That's one of the AASP motorsports cars. Seeing on the live stream pictures there, it's getting going again. There are quite a few cars suffering spins. That was on the exit of Abbey. Car still stuck at Copse until the recovery vehicle can be brought in, I think. There's probably one on its way at the moment. They mostly use the JCB up at Copse rather than the Land Rovers that we see on the rest of the circuit. So Patrick Watts leads by 1 minute 20 seconds now. That's about a third of a lap over the Toll Bar Racing car of Paul Phipps in second place. Tony Hutchings in third for Old Hat Motorsport. They're the three cars who are on the lead lap. Chris Nyland is on the lead lap only just as well in the Citroen Racing car. Car serving a stop-go penalty. That was the number 383, I think. Which is Rusty Nail Racing. That's Ray Grimes' car, noted racing instructor.
Yeah, car 464 was broken or very damaged wishbone, so they'll set 2 changing that, and the passenger side door has been dented in. I think that was from an earlier accident, because that's been gaffer taped on. So car 464, if they've got a spare wishbone, they might be able to get that car back out.
Circuit Pro complete their 221st lap of the race, just over 10 hours to go. The track's still looking pretty slick out there after all the overnight rain. Yes, the JCB has appeared now at Copse to retrieve the Team Orange car. The car going over the curbs up at Beckett's. Looking down to see where some of our previous leading runners from last night have ended up after their incidents. Well, C'est La Vie are down in 53rd place, with James McIntyre currently at the wheel after their incident up at Copse at about 2 AM. Which dropped them out of lead battle contention. They're now 16 laps down after repairs. Still got the fastest lap of the race though. Another car that was up there fighting for the lead was the Viking team car, and that's now down in 25th position, so they've had problems somewhere along the line as well. Yes, what did happen with Team Viking?
Yeah, that was a strange one, because they. Let me just remind myself. The Viking car is number. What's the number for the Viking car?
419. Just seeing it on the live stream now.
Right. Yes, that was just looking through it. Yes, it was Dean Tompkins at the wheel, and Dean seemed to be losing quite a lot of time just on the track, losing sometimes up to 10 seconds in some of the damp conditions. Then he brought it in for an early pit stop. And all of a sudden, after that early pit stop, it started going a lot more quickly again. And then the next thing was, guess what? It was off the circuit. I think it was at Copse Corner once again. And they lost about 5-6 laps getting it pulled in. I don't think it finished up on its roof, that one, but it did finish up against the barrier on the outside of Copse Corner. So it was almost as if they'd fixed the car. And having fixed it, it started going well, and then Dean Thompson's got ahead of himself, and the whole thing fell apart at the seams. But that car was another car, not just challenging for victory, but was in the lead of the race for 20 laps at a time when the pit stop window fell in its favour.
Leader's just gone across the line. Another lap completed by former touring car star Patrick Watts. Faced all manner of saloons and historics over the years, as we were saying last night. Paul Phipps still running second for Toll Bar Racing. Is he due for a stop anytime soon? No, he's not. So he's okay for the moment. I've already seen Patrick Watts, it's not long ago that he took over.
No, the position of the 333 Toll Bar car, largely due to the efforts of Rob Austin and Alex J through the night, who were the pretty star performers, often the fastest laps being set by those two as the car went into the night. And Alex Day and Rob Austin were both mighty, and they pretty much shared the driving through the night. So I suspect that car has 5 drivers, but I suspect that both Rob and Alex will be having a bit of a rest in the early hours of Sunday morning, sitting in reading the newspapers or something.
Richard Noordhoff going through in the Team Custard car. They're Caterham racers. Been a fairly quiet race for Team Custard.
No, they've been on their roof as well.
Oh, have they?
Yeah. I suppose if you call being on your roof a quiet race, then yes, you're right. But no, they've had they were on their roof at Abbey.
Maybe upside down cake and custard is the choice of dessert in the paddock today. Sorry, I had to get a pun in there somewhere. Yes, the name of Team Custard was the source of much hilarity between myself and Adam Weller at Rockingham last season as well. We had a proper Jonas and Aggers moment at one point with the 318's the Eastgate Automotive car, still running in 4th place. David Drinkwater's done, I think, the majority of the driving for them so far. Led the race early on.
Yes, he's had 3 stints. This is his 3rd stint of driving. The other 4 drivers have only had 1 each. So, yes, he certainly had the lion's share of the driving. But the car does go very rapidly when he's driving, it has to be said. And so that car, the Eastgate Automotive, what is it? Eastgate Automotive Racing. Has yes, James Poulton did the 2nd stint. So Dave Drinkwater started, James Poulton did the 2nd stint, then Dave Drinkwater did the 3rd, then Dan Collett drove, then Clive Brookson, and now it's Dave Drinkwater in to do what is the 6th stint of the race, but his 3rd, whilst the other 3 have each done 1 each. So next time, one of them is going to have to do a 2nd stint.
C'est la vie goes through, still James McIntyre, Jimmy Mack on board for them. There's Mack Attack as well, 3-4-7. They're coming back up the order thanks to Simon Walker-Hansel, up to 7th now. Can they win from the back of the grid? This grid position not really that important in a race such as this. He's running fairly smoothly out there at the moment. Just over 10 hours of the race to go. Let's file their way through the Beckett's complex. There's Mack Attack in the middle of that little group, and nearly a collision there. That was the CDMC car, Castle Donington Motorsports Club, which I think Abigail Witt is currently driving. Didn't see the car she nearly tangled with. Got through the complex okay. 3 wide almost down towards Club Corner there. Is that going to work out? Yes, it is. Team Rockingham were in the middle of that. Circuits maybe no more, sadly, but the team name lives on. Finished 2nd at Rockingham in the 24 hours last year behind Citroen D'Equipe. 2nd 24-hour held last season. First one by C'est la vie. Still Circuit Pro on top by over 90 seconds now ahead of Paul Phipps in the toll bar car. Tony Hutchings and David Drinkwater for Old Hat and Eastgate Automotive, the other cars on the lead lap, and a stylish spin there for the 355 car. Round goes the, I think that's one of the Emax Motorsport entries. So that's number 355. One of several cars that Glenn Finn is entered for in this race. I think he's down to drive 3 different cars. See who's in that car at the moment. Number 355 being driven by Rob Kerr. Not to be confused with Robbie Kerr, the single-seater racer. It's 1 minute 50 is now the gap, so Watts has pulled away even further. 4.5 seconds in it for 2nd and 3rd places between Paul Phipps and Tony Hutchings now, and the lap times some 3 seconds quicker. Tony Hutchings ahead of, on Paul Phipps. Leader currently battling with Mack Attack, who are 2 laps down. 373 car looking slow there, still with that chunk of bodywork missing from the right front. That was a collision in the first few laps up at Village. So at about 9 AM I'm going to head up to the Beckett's box. Now we've got some daylight up there again. So we've got full coverage more or less at the circuit. Leader chasing Simon Walker-Hansel in the Mack Attack car as they come up towards the line. 412 car in the pits at the moment. That's the young and old team car. Adam Davey, Alan Breck, Daniel Cramphorn, Jamie Ingram and Paul Fremantle. C'est la vie are in as well. This will be Jimmy Mack getting out, James McIntyre. Fuel goes in. Wait to see who's going to take over there.